Um, Unfortunately, one of our member, Teddy, is unable to join us. There was a very upsetting incident in their building, and the message they want me to convey to you folks is that due to the combination of both ableism and racism, they're no longer able to join us today, which is of course upsetting and very unfortunate. I know that I deeply value the perspective that Teddy was going to bring about disabled identity, community, and politics from a queer and Vietnamese perspective. And as a member of like a family with multiple disabled people in it. So to Teddy, if you're still watching, I know you were earlier, and I know that you're still in this call. But yeah, if you're still watching, I just want to say personally that I'm sorry that your day went sideways so terribly with the ableism and the racism, and I hope that we can have you broadcast another day. So our other panelists are Jay and Corin, and I hope that I put the right stressors on your name, Corin. But if you folks want to turn on your camera or unmute yourself or otherwise make your presence known, we can have a little chat for the next 20 or so minutes. Oh, and we have Jasper as well. Hurrah.
Howdy.
So, Corin, again, I want to check. I'm putting the right stressors on your name in the right place, or
you
am I not?
You are.
Okay,
Rarely
cool.
do people do that, but yes, you are. Thank you.
Awesome. So Jay and Jasper are with us, and Jay had proposed during the original filibuster, and we didn't have time to get to it. But they had proposed we have a conversation about disability income assistance rates. And now that the provincial government has come out with this bogus increase in BC, I think that's more relevant than ever. And of course, poverty and C7, as we've heard this whole broadcast, are intricately connected. So Jay and Jasper, do you wanna get us started? I don't want to put any pressure on you there. It seems like you're still getting sorted.
We can do our like introductions and descriptions and stuff.
Give your descriptions and introductions.
Oh, so I'm Jay. They and he pronouns. As far as how I look, I've got a messy green mullet, some scruffy facial hair, a black t-shirt with an apple that has teeth in it, from my cool podcast. Jasper?
Yeah, my name's Jasper. I use they, them pronouns. I'm a light-skinned Indigenous person. I've got like, what's the word? Hair. I've got brown hair a little past my shoulders, wearing like a black shirt and overalls. Yeah. Our internet's kind of spotty, so fingers crossed.
If there's any delay, it's okay. I'll wait for y'all.
I'm also a white person. Our background, we've got like a bookshelf and a dinosaur poster.
Awesome. Corin, do you want to do an introduction with a description of yourself?
I definitely can. So, Corin, I am a white person, masculine presenting, wearing a kind of tealish cardigan and sort of a cranberry and white shirt, and glasses and short brown hair. Behind me is some original, very vintage wood paneling, some books, some lamps, general household items, and I'm coming to you from the land of the Musqueam, Squamish, and Tsleil-Waututh people.
Awesome.
Jasper and I are also on the Musqueam, Squamish, and Tsleil-Waututh.
Um, yeah, so did one of you want to get us started talking about PWD rates? Would you like me to get you started in that conversation and give you a bit of a lead there?
Sure.
How do you want this to work? Yeah, you want me to give you a lead in there?
Yes.
So, I mean, I know that at least 3 of us in this conversation, I don't want to make assumptions about income for everyone here, but multiple people in this conversation are on so-called PWD, people with disabilities. It's shorthand for the disability income assistance, at least in BC. And I mean, as we talked about before, it is below poverty rates quite significantly. I think it's almost half of the supposed poverty rates, which already still have quite a bit of, not everyone thinks that they're completely accurate, let's say. But yeah, so PWD rates are very low. And this past week, the BC government made an announcement that they would be making a permanent increase in quotations of $175. That said, I know I have made several public comments about this fact, personally and to media, that earlier in the pandemic, we were given a temporary supplement of $300. And again, as we said earlier in the broadcast, a lot of people, when we received that supplement, were suddenly able to buy food for the whole month on top of all of the rest of the living expenses of being disabled and just a human being. And this $175 permanent increase is not on top of that $300 supplement. It is, that supplement was scaled back and then completely removed, and the $175 is to our old rates. Does one of you want to take it away about how that has impacted you, about connections you see to C7, or poverty and disability community in general?
Yeah. Like you said, we had our original 300, and when it was announced for that first scale back of 150, there was a lot of push, like 300 to live was sort of a movement going on, and collecting signatures and having people fill out a form of like the ways that the 300 has allowed them to live. And like you said, so many of us could actually afford food or our medication and just basic daily things. I know you quote tweeted this from John Horgan when the first 150 was scaled back in December. And the phrasing of the tweet was just so insulting. It was that we're giving disabled people an extra 150, which totally covered up the fact that they were actually taking away 150.
And it's also like the wording that they use to talk about that makes it so people who aren't aware, like people who aren't disabled and all, think that it's like a nice thing, and then it kind of creates this thing where it's like, oh well, like shouldn't you be grateful that this is happening? Like look at all the good things they're doing. Like why are you so greedy for like all this free stuff? Like it's just like really insulting and just like creates like more of a culture or like that.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think what you said, it's insulting. That's something I keep saying to people who are just hearing about it or people who aren't aware of disability income rates. Across Canada, there's no place in Canada that has PWD income assistance or any income assistance that even meets the poverty line.
I think
there was
BC
a recent,
is one of the highest.
Yeah, BC is one of the highest, and in some statistics, we also have some of the higher costs of living, especially in cities. I know ODSP, the Ontario Income Assistance for Disability, is disgustingly low. And
as
then
well.
someone, Terrell Tailfeathers on Twitter was, I think it was him, it may have been someone else, was talking about how if you're on reservation as an Indigenous person, you can't even get disability in a lot of cases, and any income assistance you can get is lower than provincial income assistance for people off reservation, which prompted a whole rabbit hole of looking up different sites, sourcing that information across the years. And yeah, at no point in any of the increases that they ever give to disabled people is the conversation ever, how about we meet the poverty line? How about we bring people up to the poverty line? And poverty reduction coalitions across Canada keep saying this as well, is that poverty reduction is not happening in Canada, period, because people on any kind of income assistance are just not part of the conversation.
Yeah, it's like really ironic that in BC at least, the like ministry that does PWD and income assistance is called like the social development and poverty reduction. It's like, great, it's like, sure, whatever you say.
What are you doing for us here?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Part of why we wanted to talk about this is like, these were already conversations we'd been having in our own home and with our friends and having so much frustration over. And so we thought, like, we've got this amazing space, so we may as well share those thoughts and bring some light to that. And like to tie it into Bill C7 and COVID, it's like, this is all happening in tandem. And as a baseline, disabled people have more expenses to live, especially during a pandemic where there's so many things that are limited. And then to have these tiny little scraps taken away while this legislation is passed, it's a really clear message from the government that it's easier for us to fund your death than to fund your living.
Absolutely. Yep. Yeah, that's something that keeps echoing across the board, is that it's easier to fund disabled death than life for the politicians and the folks in charge. And it shouldn't be. It should not be the case. That's written into our laws from the beginning, and it just keeps getting rewritten and entrenched. And yeah, I think that the energy that the filibuster generated is very important in fighting that entrenchment of inequality. I think Peter spoke very well to some of the progress and movement forward that has already been made, and also to what needs to continue to be made. Corin, do you wanna say anything to this?
I don't have experience with PWD. I'm a student at the moment and also teaching part-time. So I don't have experience. I just know what experiences friends have had, and I know how it fits into this effort to keep disabled people miserable. In every sense of the word. God forbid we be fulfilled and happy and enjoying our lives, which I think is just, to me, is so upsetting, so heartbreaking, because the disability community for me has been such a source of joy. And so to force a community that is a community of joy, is a community of keeping each other alive, is a community of support and love and hope, and to use the full force of the state to crush that joy and hope and support, I think is beyond cruel. I think it's an active eugenicist project, and I find it incredibly upsetting.
Yeah, absolutely. I know a lot of folks online get upset when we name it as eugenics. And sometimes those people are in disabled community as well. But I think maybe haven't examined and interrogated each of our experiences and positions within society. I think that that's a constant active thing. I know that sometimes I need to be reminded to do that by friends. And I think that it's extraordinarily important to constantly be examining our position, and that we are struggling together against the common systemic marginalization and oppression that we're facing, and to constantly re-examine how we can be in that struggle together and how we can better be doing that with and for each other. I want to highlight something that Jane said, and Jane was on the Filibuster last week, and a lot of people love Jane, and I think it was Jane, Brianna, and oh, I might be so wrong right now. I am so foggy and tired. I don't want to misname this. Anyways, Jane, beloved friend, beloved community member. But Jane said something about how when other marginalized groups, in this case, we were talking about BIPOC, are burnt out because there are a billion things happening in the world at once. White people, non-disabled people, again, in this case, we were talking about BIPOC, so in this case, it was white people, need to step up and be in solidarity and taking the lead in organizing. And I think that that's so important to remember, because often we think about representation, who's on screen, who's in the room. And that's important, obviously, it's important. But what Jane said about stepping up when other marginalized groups are burnt out or are just exhausted from the struggle, I think is in complement to that representation and that who is speaking out in this moment. We have about 5 more minutes on our scheduled broadcast. Does anyone want to add some more thoughts in kind of a wrap up sort of way, so that we're not ending on a super loose end here? And I invite Catherine and Spring to also come into this, but absolutely Jay, Jasper, and Corin, if you want to add anything further in these last moments, please do.
I think I would say, in terms of, folks being burnt out, and I see you, looking fairly tired right now after all of your organizing work on this, and I'm so grateful to everybody who's been doing this organizing work. And I'm sure that, exhausted is how many of you feel, and it's how any of us feel dealing with ableism day in and day out. And I think that it's really important that when folks do step up, non-disabled folks do step up and in solidarity with our community, that there's a methodology to that. And I find that so many non-disabled people who even have done decades of work with and for disabled people, putting those in scare quotes, don't really understand that methodology. And there's absolutely a place, and in fact a need, for non-disabled people in disability activism, but it is a support role. And
absolutely,
there's no glory in it. And if they're here for the glory, they need to step away.
Absolutely.
I think that's something that I can't really stress enough, say enough.
Yes.
Very, very important.
Yes. When we're in solidarity with others, it is always in those support roles. I think that is so important. And thank you so much for highlighting that in particular. In direct action, the quote is often, "Who does the dishes? Are you on the front lines in the action, or are you doing the dishes while everyone else is getting arrested and getting their face in the newspaper?" Because someone has to do the breakfast dishes before everyone else goes off to be on the front line. So yeah, thank you, Corin, for that. Jay and Jasper, it looked like you maybe wanted to say something further before we wrap up here.
Well, I want to say, just to that point of showing up, this isn't like a very clearly formed thought, but I was talking to my sister who does like all the land defending stuff about a similar thing, and she was kind of said, oh, it's like low-key trendy to like support Indigenous rights now, and I think there's like, I don't know, I don't really see that for like disability justice so much, which isn't to like compare things, but it's just like interesting that it's like, I suppose maybe like undesirable for able people in a different way.
Yeah, I would love to have maybe, another time have more room for a conversation about intersectionality of Indigenous and activism and disability.
Absolutely. Yep. Yeah. Thanks, folks. Catherine Spring, do you want to take the wheel on wrap up here?
I won't. I'll let Catherine do the wrap up. But I first wanted to read what Gabrielle posted in the chat.
Oh yes.
About who's going to wash the dishes, and I think she's really right. It says, I think it's time for disabled people who aren't poor to do the dishes, and I agree. It's not just able people in support roles, but also there are people who experience the world with disability in different ways, just like it's intersectionality, like Jay and Jasper were just saying. And so it's important to make sure that for disabled people who aren't poor can be in support roles as well, right? So I think that's a good comment. So thank you, G. And thanks everyone for coming and contributing and speaking and being a part of the filibuster as it carries on in whatever way it does. I'm really looking forward to talking about next steps, because this was really good sort of denouement and processing, and I think I'm really looking forward to hearing from Xi about some of the work that she's done and is working on, and hopefully helping to get some of that to the stage where we can actually, talk about it and present it. So that's what I'm looking forward to. Thanks, everybody.
Yeah, thank you, everyone. Thank you, Q and Spring, for co-hosting admirably today, and keeping the filibuster rolling, even though there were a few drops from the schedule. Nimble work there. I'll just note that Senator McCallum has stayed with us and posted in the chat room a moment ago. I'll just scroll up to it. She said, right, well, maybe somebody else don't scroll quicker than me and read her note, because my mouse isn't.
I've done the scrolling for you, Catherine.
There she is too. She's here herself.
So Senator McCallum said, "Thank you for inviting me to join and learn the myriad and complex challenges the community faces. And I'd like to personally say thank you so much for listening and joining us for so long. I know it means a lot to myself personally."
indeed to all of us, Senator McCallum. And if there's anything you'd like to say in closing, we welcome your voice. You're muted, Senator McCallum. I'm sorry.
Sorry. I just wanted to again extend our office for any help that you may need, and that you would lead the process. It wouldn't be Senate that would be leading it. That's very important. And there's a couple of ideas I have that we can see if they could work for you. Like, for instance, I don't know if they have a federal disability commissioner that we can see if that's something you're interested in. And I'm interested in I have written to provinces about concerns I have, and it's usually with resource extraction. I'm involved in resource extraction a lot. So I have worked with BC, with Site C Dam and Manitoba, and I'm in Winnipeg, by the way. So with the PWD, and I'm very interested in that and challenging that and bringing it to Senate. On Friday, I'm meeting with the facilitators group from the senators from our group, which is the largest group, and they're looking at what are some of the provincial areas of concern, because I keep bringing it up because senators say, well, we can't get involved in provinces. I said, of course we can. That's who we represent, you know, and I will continue to challenge the provinces, and I do. So that's something I will bring up with them. And the other, I love the song. I really love the song. And I think if you were to approach APTN to interview the group and have that song put in, if you were to ask Power and Politics to see if a group could go on and hear that your side of the story. And I mean, there's so much that you talked about. So I've made a lot of notes. I will look at them again. And I just wanted to tell you that when you talked about people going to their MPs and senators, I don't know if our office was approached, because I would have gone to that. And the only way I found out was, like I said, through Neil when I asked him. And then the access to problems, you know, to things that you need, like the cushion and the story. And when it was told in Senate, I talk about stories and what it means, and that is how Indigenous people and health professionals look at their relationship with the people that we provide service to and with them, and that we listen in the story and what was underneath that cushion and story, because some people just stick to that. So that was a powerful thing. And then the one about the intolerable pain, you know, that I did bring that up in Senate, but there was a lot. So I'll look at this and I'll make a note of where we may be able to offer you help and offer suggestions on how we could work together. But I just want to really thank you again for sharing and the amazing, amazing work that you have done. And I don't fully understand it because I'm not from the disability community, but I have empathy because I'm from the Indigenous community, and I understand colonialism. So I just want to say thank you again so very, very much. Okay.
Thanks so much, Senator.
Thank you, Senator. And it is very evident to us that you do understand. So thank you for that. Spring, I see a note from Gabrielle for the Senate.
Yeah, I was just about to offer to read that aloud
Yeah.
to the senator. Gabrielle said, "Senator, you carried hope and care into this meeting, and every time you speak, you melt my rage and my eyes fill with tears." And I want to echo that. It's
I'll
been
just,
an honor to have you here.
okay, I just want to share something. When we look at the emotions that pass through us, the elders told us, honor the emotions. And it is to let the emotion be the rage. If we chase it away, that rage stays with us. So it's okay to feel the rage. It's okay to feel the anger. It has a purpose, but we need to, like I need to channel it so that one of the persons said to me, anger is like you hanging on to a rock, and the rock will take you wherever it wants to go. You're not in charge. And that always has stuck with my mind and moved me not to act from anger or not to act from negative energy, because it will only bring negative, right? So I try to do my work without the negative energy there. And that is how I had approached the work that I was doing with Neil. And thank you again so much. Okay.
Thank you.
Okay.
I think that should be our last word. What do you think, Q? Yeah.
I do agree.
Yeah.
So thanks, everybody. And that's the end of this week.
Good night.
Thank you. We'll see you next week.